Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
I'm Wayne Tyler. I'm based out of Salt Lake City. What you're looking at is the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And being in Salt Lake City, trying to figure out, I can't just jump in my car and go get reference photos and check stuff out. So it's always been quite a challenge trying to figure out how to do this and have it be accurate. And what you're looking at is, in the scale of LEGO, it's as accurate as I can possibly get, both the size of the buildings and the spacing of all the buildings and the terrain height, which I got from USGS digital elevation data. So it's as accurate a representation of the National Mall as you can do in LEGO. What started this whole thing is I didn't have LEGO as a kid. I was introduced to LEGO in 2016 by my daughter. And in 2017, I discovered the set, the Lincoln Memorial. That was the first set that I actually ever built. And I had so much fun, it was like, oh, I've got to do more of this stuff. And so about 3 months after I got the Lincoln Memorial, they came out with the U.S. Capitol building. So the Capitol building that is in here is actually the LEGO set that I've modified heavily. But so I worked on that, and the LEGO set itself is flat. It's just on a flat base. And it's like, oh, wait, there's, the whole place where they have inauguration and all that sort of stuff. There's some terrain here. And then it was like, oh, if I'm going to be adding terrain, I might as well do it correctly. And it kind of took off from there. And when I first started this, I didn't anticipate what you see here, which is about 16 feet worth of mock. And so the Capitol building, all the lighting is custom lighting. I use Brick products because Rob Klingberg has been a great collaborator, and he has come up with a bunch of ideas for me. And he has also done some custom work for me, custom lighting. And so all the lighting stuff is a kind of a collaboration between us two. And if you looked underneath all this stuff, there's so much wiring, it's just nuts. But anyway, I wanted to get the Capitol building and the Lincoln Memorial, and then I went looking for all the other LEGO sets for the other museums and galleries, and there weren't any. And so I had to figure it out myself. So as we come down from the Capitol building, and this is Capitol Hill, and there are ideas that you keep thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if I did this, because it happens in real life. On the south side of the Capitol Hill, which is over here, that's a sledding hill in the winter. And I would love to change out all the grass to white pieces and make a winter scene with little people sledding down the hill. That would be great. And it's a great idea, but I'm not going to do that. It's just too much work. So for the past 2 years, I've kind of been on hold because I've been trying to figure out how to do the National Museum of the American Indian. Okay, as I built stuff, I started with the American History Museum, which works well in the LEGO world. It has 90-degree angles and it's flat and stuff like that. And as I worked up to this building, which is the National Gallery of Art East building, designed by I.M. Pei, there's not a right angle anywhere in this building. And it's like, how do I do all the angles? Because there's one edge in there that's a 19-degree angle. So at that point in time, it's like, okay, suspend your disbelief. I will try to make something that looks kind of like what it is. So when I got that, it was like, that was the most difficult building that I had ever worked on, and I'm still learning how to build stuff. And then I started down with the agriculture building and started to work my way up. Yeah, when I did the Air and Space Museum because that's blocky, and then I got to the National Museum of the American Indian, which not only doesn't have a 90-degree angle in it, it's all curves. And it's like, how do I do curves in LEGO? And I probably spent a year and a half just mulling that over. How do I do it? How do I make it real enough? And again, it's like suspend your disbelief. It's close enough sort of thing. But so the Hirshhorn, I actually didn't bring the test builds with me, but I had a first version of the American Indian and the Hirshhorn museums, and the American Indian version was too small by 4 studs, and the Hirshhorn was too big by 2 studs. And in microscale, just 4 studs makes a difference between an easy build and a really hard build. And so those two, the roundedness of it just took forever to figure out. And I just finished up the Hirshhorn and the building next to it, which is the Museum of Science and Industry between the castle and the Hirshhorn, just about 3 weeks ago. And so Lego-wise, finally, after 7 years of building, this is finished. The lighting isn't finished, but the builds of all the museums and galleries and buildings and stuff is completely finished.
That's incredible. I remember, I think we did a video about 5 years ago now on this, but you've just continued to add to it every year, continue to update it, and to see how complete it looks now and the level of detail you've achieved is amazing. One thing that I noticed over here with the Air and Space Museum is you actually have some stuff inside there, right?
Yeah, hold on just a sec and let me, if I can. The top, hold on.
Open it up a little bit.
Yeah, pull up on that and then, okay, so one of the things I wanted to do with the Air and Space Museum, if you actually go there and stand outside, you can look through those big plate glass walls and see what's inside, and I wanted to replicate that since we had the space. So in there, I have actually put in what you see, well, what you used to see. They're in the process of remodeling the whole thing. What you used to see inside. So there's the rocket pit, there's the X-15, the X-1, there's a DC-3, and all those are in there in the places they're supposed to be. Of course, the sizes are wrong, but I thought it would be interesting, and when I finish the lighting, the inside will be lit too. So during a dim light display, you'll be able to look through the windows also and see inside. So
very cool. And then what are some of these other buildings that we haven't quite touched on yet here?
Okay, so this is the National Gallery of Art West building. The top of it is 3 acres worth of skylights. And trying to figure out, how do I do that? Snot technique, it works for you, and gravity. So under these are clear panels, and then literally put on top of them are the transparent cheese slopes, and they're just held by gravity. I mean, if I turned it over, the whole roof would fall off. So, and then next one down, this is the National Gallery of Art Sculpture Garden, and that's right there. And then next to that is the 12th Street Expressway. And then there's the National Museum of Natural History. And then this is the 9th Street Expressway. And as you can see, I've actually got that lit underneath. One of the things that I wanted to do with the lighting that I'm working on is to implement the lighting both inside and outside the buildings, all the street lights, and part of that is the tunnel lights. And this is the metro station entrance, and that into is lit also. So then the next building is the National Museum of American History, and I have the lighting on the panels that you can see at night. This was the first building that I attempted to do inside and outside lighting. I'm still working on it. And then this is the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which is the last building on the mall in real life that has been built. It was one of the earlier ones that I built, and it was the first one that I did a digital model of to test out my ideas. Most of the other stuff that you've seen here has just been built on the fly, no pre-planning. It's like sticking pieces together. Does this work? Does this not work? Whatever. And then the Washington Monument, this was the first piece I designed on my own. And you can see the aircraft warning lights on the top. That was the first work that Bricks provided for me. And I talked to Rob Klingberg and I said, can you do, blinking lights? And he said, sure. And so when he sent me the topper piece, he actually put it all together and just sent me the completed piece. When I unpacked it and plugged it in, I probably sat there for 15 minutes staring at it going, it looks so real. It looks exactly like what you see in the movies and stuff like that. The blink rate is just about the same as what you would see in real life. So that was pretty amazing.
So that takes us through a lot of the buildings here, but then of course a lot of this is the landscaping and the trees. So what was your kind of general approach to that with the trees and the grass and even these paths that kind of run throughout the whole project?
So the elevation was actually taken from the USGS digital elevation data, which I ran through a program that produced elevation lines. And so I knew where the elevation changed by a meter. And then I laid it out on the base plates as to where it changed, and I just built that up so that the elevation would match what the actual USGS data was. The size of everything, there's a story here. After I got the Lincoln Memorial and the U.S. Capitol, and realizing that I wanted to build the other museums and buildings, I wrote to Lego and I said, what scale is it? And Lego wrote back and said, there is no scale. And I said, wait, how can you say there is no scale when you say on your box for the U.S. Capitol in the same scale as the Lincoln Memorial? And they go, no, really, there's no scale. I said, somebody's have to do the math on this. What is it? And the response I finally got back was, somebody may have figured that out in the designer's area. We don't know what it is, and we can't get that information. And it was like, okay, so what do I do? What I did was, using Google Earth, I took screen grabs at a certain elevation of the Lincoln Memorial, because that was the one building I had. And then I would take other screen grabs at the same elevation of the other buildings, and I would measure it in Lincoln Memorial units. And so I've come up with a whole measurement system. This whole scale is what I call the Lincoln Memorial unit. And everything is in scale to each other, and everything is in scale to the Lincoln Memorial.
Very, very cool. And then for the tree design itself here, it looks like you've got a couple different kinds, but primarily it looks like you're using kind of the 2x2 round plates there. Is that the main element?
Well, that's what I started with because I didn't know any better. And then over the years, I've encountered other small ways of building trees, and I've started to incorporate that. So if you look at my early stuff, it's all got the by 2 round plates, but if you look at my later stuff, it's got variations of smaller trees. And some of the tree design I can't claim as my own. My wife is the arborist for this, and she's done several designs for the trees that you see here.
I love a good team effort. So how long did you say this whole thing is, and then do you know how many pieces are in it?
I didn't realize this was going to be a project when I started, so I never counted. I couldn't tell you how many pieces. It's about 16 feet long, about 3 feet wide, in its current iteration. And my wife is counting trees, but we probably have somewhere in the vicinity of 2,000 trees on this. And it's 7 years worth of work.
So is this the end of the project at this point, except for maybe more lighting, or what, do you have other plans to expand on this?
The initial plan was to go down to the Lincoln Memorial, which starts there and goes down another 12 feet. And the lit version of the Lincoln Memorial is the one that I would actually use. So I would love to be able to finish it, but having taken 7 years just to do this portion, the next 12 feet would probably take another 3 years, and my want-to-do list of other projects is getting longer and longer. So at the end of this year is dedicated to finishing the lighting. And at the end of this year, it's decision time. Do I want to actually build it all the way down to the Lincoln Memorial, or do I want to do some of my other projects that I have on my list?
Gotcha. Well, I think what you've done so far is incredible. So thank you so much for taking us through all the details here and for all your work in not only building this, but bringing it out to the show here as well. It's great to see this continue to grow over the years. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for stopping by and saying hello and allowing me to talk about my passion.